How about them Cowboys? Angry Cowboys fan. Born to battle. Some just means we never sell. America's team through thick and thin. When the sun shines bright, that's where we win. Angry Cowboys fan.
What's going on, Cowboys Nation and angry Cowboys fans around the world? Y'all know who it is. It's your man, the Angry Cowboys fan. And this whole George Pickens contract situation has taken a little bit of a detour for the worst, I would say. On the Pat McAfee Show, Adam Schefter talks about the George Pickens contract situation. Adam Schefter says that George Pickens and his camp came out and said that he either wants a long-term contract or he wants to be traded. So we're going to take a listen to the 3 clips that I got for y'all, and y'all know what we're going to do. We're going to come back and unpack this raw and uncut. And I'll tell you right now, Cowboys Nation, this raw and uncut is going to be filled with important information that you don't want to miss out on. It may be a little lengthy, but I promise you, it'll make things a little bit more clearer when it comes to things that Adam Schefter said on the Pat McAfee Show. So, angry Cowboys fans, let's go ahead and take a listen to what the guys over on the Pat McAfee Show had to say.
Look, he wants a long-term contract, or he would like a trade. They have been very clear that they're not going to give him a long-term contract. So now that leaves them in a position, both sides, I think that's a little bit unsettled at this current moment. George Pickens signed the tender, so he is now contractually obligated to be there for mini camps, for training camp. He has to be there. Now, we'll see how that works out. He wants to be traded. I think you don't just sign that tender willy-nilly like, oh, I feel like signing the tender today. Like on the day there had to be some sort of motive that he had. Now, I do believe that there were people that were trying to get him traded during the draft, looking into other teams. Would you have any interest? Teams got calls about that, but nothing materialized. I don't think it's entirely off the table that at some point in time he could be traded, even though the Cowboys have been adamant that they have no plans to trade him. At some point in time, if there's a team that's willing to give them a decent enough haul in return, I would think it might be in everybody's best interest at that time.
So he wants a long-term contract, or he wants a trade from the Dallas Cowboys? So when and where did Adam Schefter hear all this? Did he hear it from George Pickens and David Mulugheta, or is he just giving his perspective on the whole situation? Is it just his professional take on the situation, or is he speaking in facts because he knows something, Cowboys Nation? And if he's speaking in facts, can we get some reference to where you got this from? I'm going to keep it a buck with y'all, Cowboys Nation. I don't think this is factually accurate, but at the same time, I do think it's factually accurate, and he's getting his information from the inside. We're going to be talking about that more during the raw and uncut portion of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. Now let's go ahead and jump into this second clip so we can come back and talk about it. Roll a clip.
And by the way, there could be at some point in time, we get to camp, somebody loses a receiver due to injury. Whenever that happens, the thinking is going to shift to George Pickens if he hasn't been traded by that point in time. It's just going to kind of float out there all along. I'll say this. The Dallas Cowboys also said last year, I believe, that they weren't trading Micah Parsons, and they wound up trading him. And George Pickens will be more tradable than Micah Parsons. So even though Dallas says it's not trading him, I still believe that a trade will be alive. It will follow that team and him throughout the summer. And forgive me for being ignorant and naive, but there had to be a reason why he signed that franchise tender.
There has to be a reason why he signed that franchise tag tender, huh? Why hasn't this been the thinking before the draft? Adam Schefter is talking about George Pickens and that he signed the franchise tag tender, and there was a reason why he signed the tender. In Schefter's mind, George Pickens signed the franchise tag tender in order to be traded from the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know, Cowboys Nation. Something seems a little fishy here. Now let's go ahead and jump into the third clip so we can come back and unpack this raw and uncut.
You said more tradable than Micah Parsons?
No. What I'm saying is the Cowboys said that they weren't trading Micah Parsons. In this particular case, they're not married long-term to George Pickens. They've already said they're not extending him. They wanted to keep Micah Parsons long-term. The Dallas Cowboys have basically advertised that as much as we like George Pickens, we're not signing him to a long-term deal. So there's no long-term commitment. So if there's no long-term commitment, they would be more apt, in my mind, to trade George Pickens than they were Micah Parsons at this time last year. We know how that went last year. Now, they're saying that they don't intend to trade George Pickens. That's their plan. But my point is, if they traded Parsons, then I think Pickens is even more tradable than Parsons was a year ago.
Yeah. But, I'm kind of glad that you cleared all that up because Micah Parsons was more tradable than George Pickens. The Micah Parsons situation is different than the George Pickens situation. The only thing that connects the two is the agent that represents the both of them, and that's David Mulugheta. But let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? Y'all ready for this raw and uncut? Y'all ready? Let's get it. Get ready for the Angry Cowboys fans, raw and uncut.
Keeping it real. They keep it real. That's real.
All right, Cowboys Nation, I'm going to apologize to y'all ahead of time because this raw and uncut is going to turn into a rant. But let me start it off by saying, I don't believe you, Adam Schefter. Let me go ahead and let y'all know why I don't believe what Adam Schefter's saying on the Pat McAfee Show when it comes to George Pickens. One reason? Adam Schefter isn't the most reliable talking head to get information from. I mean, I respect the fact that he's been covering the NFL for over 30 years, but within those 30 years, how many times has he been wrong in his analysis? Let me go ahead and take y'all down memory lane real quick. In October last year, Dan Campbell vehemently shut down Adam Schefter's claims that the Lions reached out to the league about cut blocking Aiden Hutchinson. The rumor stemmed from a Monday Night Countdown report from Adam Schefter, who claimed ahead of the Lions' 38-30 win over the Ravens in Week 3 that Detroit was concerned that the Packers and the Bears had intentionally hit Aiden Hutchinson low in Weeks 1 and 2. When asked about the report, this is what Dan Campbell had to say.
And there was a report a couple weeks ago that you guys had reached out to the league, a report from ESPN that you reached out to the league regarding cut blocks.
That's bogus. That's a bogus report. I don't know where that came from. Nobody from here ever did that. That's bull.
All right, now how about the New York Post story that was published July 12th, 2022? An anonymous ESPN employee ripped Adam Schefter after a controversial mistake in the Dalvin Cook domestic abuse situation. Seth Markman, the ESPN vice president, had this to say about Adam Schefter. Adam is a cyborg. He's uniquely suited for this. I can't tell you how many times on a slow news day he delivers something invaluable that fills a whole day of shows for us. In layman's terms, Cowboys Nation, Adam Schefter is good at making up content to get clicks and ratings. Not only that, but Adam Schefter was called out by another NFL insider for working closely with who? David Mulugheta to put out stories that gave favorable coverage to a player who David Mulugheta was representing. This is why Adam Schefter is the first to break stories that involve players who are represented by David Mulugheta because they scratch each other's backs. Take a listen to what Mike Florio had to say about the situation.
The reality here is Christian Wilkins is looking for a job. And the reality here is Christian Wilkins has representation.
Yes.
That is charged with finding him a job. So what do? You work the angles, you work your sources. Let's call it what it is. David Mulugheta represents Christian Wilkins. He's working Schefty to get Schefty to put a story out there that is favorable to Christian Wilkins. Let's just say what that is.
Right.
Let's put a favorable story out there so someone else will pay him a lot of money. That's how it works. That's how. And so why does Why does the reporter do it? Because it pays off on the back end. For example, when Micah Parsons signs his contract, Schefter may be the first one to report it now because it's same agent representing both guys. That's the transactional nature of the insider game. Every once in a while, you eat a little shit. You push something that may not be accurate, or you let somebody tell you a lie that you put out there because you know they'll owe you one, and they'll make it up to you on the back end because that other stuff doesn't really get noticed and scrutinized the way it should. That happens. That's a game, and he's not the only one that plays it. They all play it, and it's one of the reasons why I don't. That bubbled up yesterday.
Right.
Because Schefter was on with Pat McAfee, and he said the thing that no one will talk about or that everyone's dancing around is that Christian Wilkins kissed a teammate on the forehead and the teammate was offended and went to HR. And look, that's not the story that's making the rounds.
No.
And the story that's making the rounds is not ready to be reported or explained because people are keeping their mouths shut. But the idea that a football player went to another football player and playfully kissed him on the forehead and that player went to HR.
Yeah.
And that in some way contributed to that. That's never happened.
Challenge flag.
That defies logic and common sense.
All right, Cowboys Nation, let's go into recent time. During this past draft, Adam Schefter was accused of showing major bias by reporting that prospect Carnell Tate ran a faster 40-yard dash time than officially recorded, a claim widely seen as being fed directly by the player's representation to boost draft stock. Carnell Tate being represented by who? Drew Rosenhaus. The more I look up Adam Schefter and the players that he breaks stories about, the more I see that he's in cahoots with said players' agents. The results show me that Adam Schefter is used by these agents to break stories, to manage clients' narratives, as well as leak information to the masses. He's done this with Antonio Brown, represented by Drew Rosenhaus. He did this with Christian Wilkins, who's represented by who? David Mulugheta. He's done this for Micah Parsons, who's represented by who? David Mulugheta. And now he's doing it for George Pickens. Y'all know who his representation is. Seems to me that he has a close relationship with Drew Rosenhaus and David Mulugheta and will leak player-friendly information in order to get things done on the agent's behalf. Also, there was a post that was posted on X saying that Adam Schefter was saying that George Pickens signed his franchise tag tender before the draft. Guess what, Cowboys Nation? That post is nowhere to be found now because that was a lie. According to Todd Archer, a reporter who reports for the Dallas Cowboys, George Pickens has yet to sign his franchise tag tender. So bros on the Pat McAfee Show being the mouthpiece for David Mulugheta, telling the nation that George Pickens either wants a long-term contract or he wants to be traded. If you have a talking head in your pocket, you don't have to have your client go up to his GM and request a trade. You could just have that talking head go on his platform and air out all the business in an attempt to gain leverage in the contract negotiations. Now tell me, Cowboys Nation, did George Pickens really want him to do this? This is what I meant when I posted that post over on X, highlighting the fact that these agents receive 3% of what the player signs for. You had people looking at me like I had 5 heads or something, but they didn't understand where I was coming from, and some just don't want to see where I'm coming from. I mean, people will complain about Jerry Jones going to the media, leaking things to the media in favor of the Dallas Cowboys and getting the contract done, but they will not talk about the agents leaking things to the media in order to gain leverage in the same contract. But where I was coming from with that whole X post is the fact that sometimes these agents go rogue in order to get the most money from these teams, and they really don't care if they put their clients in a complicated situation. They don't care if they put their clients on a team that they really don't want to play for, just as long as it gets them more money on their contract so that 3% grows exponentially. Y'all go ahead and look at Micah Parsons' face and tell me that he wants to remain a Green Bay Packer. Because from how he talks about the Dallas Cowboys and to the players that actually were drafted by the Dallas Cowboys, that man still has a star on his heart. But when it comes to free agency, the draft, or trades, some of these talking heads aren't reporting to inform the NFL fan. They're reporting it because the players' agents trying to gain leverage in their respective contract negotiations, and they use the media connections that they have in order to gain said leverage, especially if the contract that they're working with could be considered top of the market. So do these agents work for the players, or do they try to maximize the players' earnings to see a bigger piece of the pie? Do they actually care about the players' happiness, or do they talk them into situations that would have them unhappy in the long run? Having these players request a trade and sign to a team they never envisioned themselves playing for, all because it was the biggest offer on the table. So, do the agents work for the players, or do they try to maximize the earnings to see a bigger piece of the pie? Do they actually care about the players' happiness, or do they talk them into situations that would make them unhappy just to get a bigger bag? And I know some people in Cowboys Nation hates the fact that Jerry and Stephen Jones uses the media to do these contract situations, but at the end of the day, so do the agents. The agents have some of these reporters in their back pocket to where if they want to get a message across to the team, they'll use that reporter to get that message across to the team. You see that the Dallas Cowboys came out and said that George Pickens will be playing on the franchise tag. They said that during a press conference, and it got out to the media. So, in return, David Mulugheta calls up Adam Schefter and spits a little sweet nothing in his ear, letting him know that George Pickens wants to request a trade if they can't get a long-term deal done, trying to regain the leverage that the Dallas Cowboys took from them when the Cowboys said that we're all set with Pickens playing on the franchise tag. So do you see how this goes, Cowboys Nation? Do you see the negativity and the blatant hypocrisy in all of this contract situation? The Dallas Cowboys aren't the only one to use the media to their advantage. Obviously, the agents do that as well. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys fan. Cowboys Nation, what do you think about what Adam Schefter had to say on the Pat McAfee Show? Do you trust his reporting about George Pickens in that situation, or is it just another way for the agent to get their narrative across? Y'all know how we do. We always talk about it in the comment section. If you're digging this content and you want to help the channel reach its current goal of 20,000 subscribers, drop a like on this video, share with anybody that you know is a Dallas Cowboys fan, and if you're on your mobile device and you haven't used them up yet, make sure you hype this video. Doing so will help get the content out to Dallas Cowboys fans. They'll come over to the Angry Cowboys Fan YouTube channel and want to become Angry Cowboys fans themselves. And if you are DC for life and you hope that George Pickens is getting that contract extension done and being a Dallas Cowboy for the foreseeable future, hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I go live, release another video, podcast episode, or film breakdowns. You can catch the Madden 26 or College Football 26 gameplay on my other channel, the Angry Cowboys Fan Gaming Channel, the Angry Gaming Channel. I'll make sure I put the link to that as well as the gamer tag in the description. I have the 2026 rookie class in Madden 26 right now, so I'm going to be playing franchise mode with the new team. Y'all go ahead and come over and check it out, all right? But this Adam Schefter report about George Pickens was just another way for David Mulugheta to try and get leverage over Jerry and Stephen Jones in this contract situation. Calling up an NFL insider to leak things out to the media so that it can get back to the Dallas Cowboys. There's a reason why a lot of high-profile players request a trade under David Mulugheta, and I don't believe that it's the players that do it. The players are convinced in requesting a trade because it can get them a bigger bag. There's a reason why Adam Schefter is the first one to report on it, even if the report contains false information. But I refuse to believe Adam Schefter because we can all see how he moves and his motives for the way he moves, and that's to gain more access to the players. But this has been your man, the Angry Cowboys Fan, and I'm out. Dang, Angry Cowboys fan, you done made it through the entire video. But if you want more content, you can definitely go to this video right here. Or if you want the latest episode of the Angry Cowboys Fan Podcast, you can go right here. But whatever you do, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, but remain DC for life.